let's shift our attention over to Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
And Patty Mahomes.
Oh, Patty.
Hey, they're not just in pursuit of a Super Bowl this year. They are trying to transcend the NFL and the 1970s Miami Dolphins team that always pounds their chest, whichever 70s team that was. Was it 72 maybe?
72, right?
Like that. Does it really matter? Who cares?
So long.
Only people who care.
About 18.
That's all.
18 years before I was born, so it's not relevant.
Yeah. Hey, we don't care.
Exactly.
Okay? We don't care. We don't care about that Miami Dolphins team. Great, you did it. Wonderful.
That was
Beautiful.
1,000 years ago. You didn't have Chase Young coming off the edge, coming at Dan Marino full fucking speed. I'm pretty sure, take it with a grain of salt. I'm happy for Dolphins fans, but don't.
Yeah. Don't be the team that just has one great accomplishment that you're beating your chest on for your whole life, you know.
Yes.
But I will say, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs not trying to do that because they've recently won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl, and they're in the pursuit of perfection. Vince Lombardi's perfection that he talked about. That is what they are in pursuit of with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes.
That's.
But I thought, you know what I saw, Nick? When he said, I saw negative Nellies out there saying, "Why would you even?"
Come on, Patrick.
Why would you put that on before? Incredibly difficult in a hell of a mountain to climb, and may it add some stress towards the later half of the season because you are chasing perfection. Yeah, but I think that should be every team's goal. Well, it's unrealistic to win every single game. Who the fuck cares? Does that mean you don't try? You only have to win the last game, and that's a Super Bowl. Yeah, great. If you just want to be great but average, sure. You know what? I'm here for Patrick Mahomes and his hot take of chasing perfection and going 20-0. Because you know what? If there is a team that could do it, I do think it is the Kansas City Chiefs. But I do think the NFL is such a competitive league now that it'll be an amazing feat if it happens. But I think the odds are stacked a little bit against Patrick Mahomes, but I'm rooting for him. And if they go 20-0, I'll be okay with it. I'd rather see him go 19-1 and lose to the Packers in the Super Bowl, but that's just the fandom in me coming out. So, but other than that, Patty Mahomes, you'd go chase greatness, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
I think the pursuit of it is good. I think the pursuit of perfection is good. I think every team, I agree with you, should be trying to do that. What I don't like is Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes opening their mouth this offseason, both saying that they're trying to go undefeated, when in reality, let's wake up a second, Patrick Mahomes. You just lost the Super Bowl. You were running for your life that whole game. Now, granted, that's because your offensive line was hurt, and I understand that. But it's not like you left us with this great vision of oh, man, this guy has just figured it out. The other thing is every defensive coordinator in the NFL knows what the hell they're doing for the most part, and they've been preparing for now they have 2 full years of figuring out what you guys do on offense. Defenses have now had 2 full years to try their best to get used to defending a guy like Tyreek Hill and a guy like Travis Kelce. And the reality is, if I'm being totally honest, let's just look, I pulled it up here, at the Chiefs' schedule. When Patrick Mahomes is talking about they're going to go undefeated. They open with the Cleveland Browns. So not an easy game, not an easy game at all. In their first 8 games, just the first half of the season this year, the Kansas City Chiefs play the Browns, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Titans. If we look at their first 12 games of the season, they also, in that span, play the Packers and Cowboys. So my argument is, if you're going to talk all that shit, you had better back it up. And I don't mean it like he's talking a bunch of shit, like he's coming out like everyone else sucks, I'm the man, we're going to win everything. But no one is holding a gun to your head and telling you to come out as Patrick Mahomes, knowing the type of media attention that you get, and say, yeah, man, we're out here, we're going to do this undefeated thing. When you play all of those teams in your first 12 games, your first 10 games, your first 8 games, I think the reality is, what if the Chiefs come out and lose 2 of their first 8 games? Then my thing is, now you're just one of these guys who talks if you're Patrick Mahomes. Now you're just the guy who talks. Brady can get away with it because Tom Brady has had a season where he almost went undefeated. So if he wants to come out and say, we're going undefeated this year, I think he's an idiot too. But he can at least have something to lean on where he can go, well, you know what? I'm Tom Brady. I'm the GOAT. I can say what I want. Patrick Mahomes, like, bro, we just saw you running for your life. Like, I don't even know that Patrick Mahomes is beloved by the entire NFL. I think there are some people that already don't like that guy. And the reality,
Really?
yeah, for sure. I think if you look at the way that Twitter reacts to like his brother and his wife, and like he
Yeah.
has this thing where like people do not like he has a little Russell Wilson to him in the same way that like people don't always like jive with Russell Wilson and they're not always like
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes has a little bit of that. So it's like, man, you are saying a lot that no one is making you say when you have the schedule you have. And my thing is, if you roll out and your guy's record is 9-3 after the first 12 games, it's like, dude, now you're just a guy who talks. You're just a guy that won a Super
Yeah.
Bowl and an MVP early on, and now you just talk. Like, I also
Yeah.
don't love, and I'll end this point on this because I feel like I'm on a tangent, but I also don't know that you want to.
Come on, baby, let's get it.
I also don't know that you want to put that pressure on your team because now you've given every week you keep winning. You've given the defense that you're about to go against something for the locker room, right? The newspaper clipping for the locker room. If you're the Cleveland Browns right now, you're looking at that dude and you're going like, yeah, or you can start the year 0-1 now, Mr. 20-0. Like that's my thought, right? So it's like I think that is a bold ass statement to make. Now if he does it, phenomenal, right? It's a home run swing. It's like if he does it, he
Yeah.
called it and he's the man forever and that whole thing. But if you don't, like no one made you say that. No one held a gun to your head and say like we're going undefeated.
And I think you probably more than anyone understand the psychology of like getting your team like rallied.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe this is like that attempt to be like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
we were in the Super Bowl last year. We won the Super Bowl the year before, I believe. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
And so, we've been there. We're good enough. Maybe he feels like that year three, they're going to have some things really gelling together, offense firing on all cylinders. So yeah, it might lift up the Kansas City Chiefs being like, yeah, our quarterback thinks like we can go 20-0, great, wonderful. And I think of it as like it's so early in the off season, like for him to say that, I think like okay, yeah, it brings some headlines and stuff, like gets the Kansas City Chiefs talked about, but I think once you get to the football season, like unless he's still pounding 20-0 throughout the off season, I think that does kind of get forgotten about.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I don't know if it's going to be too much of a like I mean for the Cleveland Browns week 1, sure. I think they're going to have it posted in their locker room because that's your week 1 matchup, so why not?
Yep.
Use that as your fuel. But I think if he kind of just takes his foot off the gas and then gets into the season, I don't think there'll be so much hype about it. But I think you're right. With a guy like Tom Brady, he can easily make that statement. One, because he's been there, done it multiple times,
Yep.
had great seasons that, almost reached the top. And two, he's playing with the Bucks, which you can make the argument that Bucks team is the best team he's ever played on as far as talent level and skill level goes. And for them to win the Super Bowl the way they did against the Chiefs, for him to come out and say that, I'm like, yeah, well, Tom Brady and his team, they have a lot better chance of going 20-0 than the Chiefs, in my opinion. But I will say this: if the Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs do go 20-0 with the teams that they play on their schedule,
Yes.
and I never want to hear the Miami Dolphins mentioned ever again. And not
I
just the
agree.
70s or 72 Miami Dolphins,
Just
just
the
the Miami
franchise.
Dolphins franchise mentioned ever
Get rid
again.
of them.
Because now you're completely irrelevant.
Absolutely.
So, but here's the thing I will leave everyone on is it's my mentality. I don't know how to, but my mentality is like, yeah, you can achieve that impossible shit and you're going to go 20-0. Fuck it, go,
No doubt.
because we're going to prove a lot of the haters wrong, and the people who didn't like you are going to start liking you, and it's going to be great. And like, Tom Brady come out and say it, and now some guys, like I think Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, they can come out and say, yeah, we're going to go 20-0 because their teams are set up to potentially go 20-0. Now, is it still a 5 to 10% chance that actually happens? Sure, it's slim, it's not very great, but I mean, if you look at some teams that have done some questionable things, but it has worked out very well for them. Like, one thing I hate to admit it, but one thing I think the Bears organization did very well and really captured an audience was their 1985 team doing the Super Bowl shuffle in the middle of the season, releasing it, and then going and actually winning the Super Bowl.
There you
You know,
go.
like that shit is some legendary shit. You know, so,
Sometimes
so
you call your shot and it works. I mean, sometimes
yep.
you do. Then there's other times where you
Oh,
show up and you have a LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh who go not one, not two, not three,
for sure.
not four. First season, get blasted by the Dallas Mavericks in the finals. Like
So I'm,
that's
and that probably happens more often than not. That's why it makes
right.
moments like these that do play out so special. So like I said, it'd probably only be a 5 to 10% chance that they do actually go 20-0. Um, but if it does, I think that that is it's a great accomplishment, and I think a guy like Patrick Mahomes only becomes more of a talker for you, Nick.
There you go. See,
So.
Mr. 20-0. I'll call him it either way. They lose that first game of the season. I will refer to that dude as Mr. 20-0 for the rest of his life.